Hi, my name is Danielle Soigo, and I'm a lawyer at Fasken Martin O'Dumoulin in Vancouver. I'm also a member of the local Justicia chapter. Tonight we'll be talking about business development in the legal profession, specifically business development for women, but also generally to anyone who is looking for additional tips about how they can grow a business and develop a marketing plan. With me tonight is Valerie Mann from Lawson Lundell and Leisha Murphy from Connect Law. Thank you very much to both of you for being here.
Thanks.
Val, if you could say a little about yourself, please.
Sure. I'm Valerie Mann. I'm a partner with Lawson Lundell here in Vancouver. We are a business law firm based in Western Canada with offices in Vancouver, Calgary, and the North. I am a corporate M&A and corporate finance lawyer and been doing this for far too many years.
My name is Leisha Murphy. I am a partner and co-founder of Connect Family Law in Vancouver, and we just opened offices in Kelowna. I have one business partner and 4 lawyers. Yeah, I think that's it. I opened my law firm about a year ago, so I delved quite deeply into marketing and building a book of business about a year ago.
Excellent. Thanks very much. So the first topic tonight, ladies, is how to build a personal brand. And Val, we'll start with you. What are the benefits of building a strong book of business?
Well, first of all, I'll just say that you really have to want to do that. And I'm sort of of the view that everybody ought to. But the most obvious things that you get from building your own business is really things like flexibility, freedom, a sense of self-control, a sense of self-reward. Not to mention that in most firms, and I'm in a relatively large firm, certain compensation comes from advancement, comes from building your own book of business, and it does tend to be, I think, a more rewarding way to practice in the long run.
Excellent. And Leisha, would you have any additional points?
I agree with everything that Val said. I would add on to that it also helps you build a community of support as well. If you have other lawyers that are referring to you, you can often call them for advice. And it's a nice reciprocal relationship when you can refer back, or other professionals that you may use. For instance, in family law, we often have financial advisors or evaluators or mental health professionals that we refer work to, and they refer back, and they can often be a resource to us. So that's sort of an added non-financial benefit, but I would just say also having a strong book of business also just helps bring in better quality files and constant stream of work, which is very helpful.
So it sounds like one of the things that you mentioned as a critical step to building a book of business is building a referral network. Would there be any additional critical steps that you could think of?
Yeah, I would say if you want people to lean into what you're doing and really, understand what you're about and what type of clients you are looking to attract, you have to first figure out, why are you in business? What is your purpose? And what are you hoping to achieve by building this referral network or book of business? And then I would say, secondly, what are the strategies you're going to use to attract these people within your network? And then the third critical step, I think, is just being committed to those strategies and how you're going to make that start up and then grow over time.
Okay, excellent. And Val, what would you say the critical steps for you were in building your book of business?
For me, and I'll give you a little bit of a background of where I got to where I got to. When I started out and I was an associate, and the first part of your career, and certainly in our firm, that was what we focused on. You had to become a good lawyer, so you had to learn the craft, and you had to, really demonstrate that you understood what you were doing and in the area that you chose to practice in. And I was very fortunate because early on in my career, I worked with a very senior lawyer in our firm who was a master of the craft, and someone that I gave me more and more responsibility and really taught me more than just how to practice and the technical parts of practicing law, but client relationships and
This.
skills and all sorts of things like that. And so by the time I'd kind of worked through a very busy period in my career, I demonstrated a whole bunch of things that I think were got you towards the door of partnership and being able to work in my particular area, manage clients, run transactions, delegate work lots and lots of hours, all of those types of demonstrable things. But I also had a bit of an independent streak, and I knew that there was something that I wanted to do to build myself. So at some point, and it won't be the first couple of years of practice, but at some point you will want to start to venture forth with some of the skills that you're getting. And so for me, in that independent streak, I felt that I looked around the firm and I knew we did a lot of work with resource companies. We still do. But we really weren't touching for example, the technology industry. Mm-hmm. And I thought, well, that's an area where I have an interest. No particular background to get me there, but I had an interest in it. And so for me, it was sort of launching into a new industry. So my critical first steps were understanding that industry, doing my own research, building as fulsome a business plan as I could build, having an idea of short and medium term targets that I wanted to try to reach out to, and various ways that I would present myself to that market in terms of expertise and networking and just getting involved in the industry itself. Mm-hmm. So those were sort of the first critical steps of launching into a new area, a niche, something that I could call my own, and that I could start to try to develop.
Well, and that actually leads us to sort of our next question, which is what tips would you have for people who are looking to develop their own personal brand? Because it seems like you did take steps to really sort of find your own way. Is there any additional advice that you would have for people who are maybe looking to do something similar or just looking to build their personal brand in another way?
Yeah, I mean, certainly you have to find something that you're, I think, interested in. That certainly helps. It's really hard to do something where you have no affinity for the industry that you're going after, and certainly if it's outside your area of expertise, that's going to be really tough. You can fill in gaps, but starting fresh is difficult to do. So first find something that you think you can build on, and that either comes from, I mean, what I did was sort of leap into the deep end of the pool, but at least in that respect of my practice. But you can also do that from just, as Lisa says, having referral sources. So you develop a relationship with somebody who's an investment banker or somebody in private equity or something like that, and that generates more work. And I think you work very closely with those kinds of referral sources and take that sort of critical step of building your own relationships, and that builds your brand. It builds your own reputation within a certain industry.
Excellent, thank you. And Leisha, would you have any additional advice on how to build your own personal brand?
Well, I echo what Val has said about learning your craft and becoming an expert in that area and specializing, because I think it's really hard to look at building a business unless you are confident and know what you're doing. So the first couple of years of practice, I agree, you have to put that time in. And that was really, once I had put that time in and knew what I was doing, is when I popped my head up and thought, I'm very passionate about family law. I'm very passionate about helping families. And I started to have ideas about how I could do this differently, which is why I wanted to start my own firm and have a bit more control over how I built that book of business, and also how I provided legal services to clients. And I think that can be an alternative way for women in particular to have a little bit more control over maybe the hours they're working, or the structure of the work is to actually start their own firm and do things how they want to do them. So in terms of any advice, I think specializing really helps a lot, because then you can hold yourself out as a specialist in a particular area. Even within family law, I specialize in complex asset division and trusts, and that was the experience I gained early on in my career so that I could competently talk to clients and other lawyers about that specialty, and then people get to know you for being able to do that kind of work, and that helps with the referrals because they feel confident that they're referring someone to you and that that person is going to be taken care of, the client. So, and then I think rolled into that is being accountable and trustworthy, that, you know, if someone does refer someone to you, that you are going to honor that by doing a good job for that client, and then that trust with that referral source continues to build, which is, I think, really important at the end of the day, is that you have that trust from that person that you can do the job at a high level. So that would be the only thing I would add to what Val said.
Yeah, and I think different industries too operate in different ways. So if you're going after the technology industry, there's a ton of industry associations and networking opportunities. Not all industry focus or practice areas operate that way. So you do have to, you know, you're going to adapt depending on the area that you choose to practice in and the client base that you're going after. But kind of find that out, and if it's one where there's a lot of networking, that may be something you're going to find yourself out doing lots of evening cocktails and things like that. But that's part of it, just to get to know people. And you know, after showing up at a few of those things consistently, you start to get to know people. You see people over again. You start to form those relationships. It's just something that takes a certain amount of persistence and consistency. You know, if you're consistently participating in things, volunteering for things. In my case, I sat on various boards that were targeted at that particular industry, and that lets you roll up your sleeves with a bunch of people, like-minded people that have common goals, and it just starts to build on itself. But you do have to be consistent, and you do have to keep and persistent. Keep pushing ahead in what you've chosen and getting yourself out into that industry.
And maybe don't expect immediate results, like you said, right? And
Never get
it
them.
takes time to build.
It does.
Yes.
But going to those events and being on those boards gives you the opportunity to come into contact with people you may not normally, and then that's sometimes how opportunities can come up. You're just having a conversation, and they realize that you can add some value or do something for them or one of their clients, and that's how that happens. It's not usually some forced situation that you anticipate is going to happen.
More organically.
Yeah.